The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare said on Wednesday India recorded a spike of 186,053 cases in the last 24 hours, pushing the total tally of COVID-19 cases to 585,493, with the number of fatalities mounting to 17,400. A total of 347,978 people have recovered and discharged from hospitals. The recovery rate is 59.07% among the COVID-19 patients. According to the Health Ministry data, 507 deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours, taking the COVID-19 death toll to 17,400. With a spike of 4,878 cases, Maharashtra remained the worst hit state in the country. Authorities will lock down more than 300,000 people in suburbs north of Melbourne for a month from late on Wednesday to contain the risk of infection after 2 weeks of double-digit rises in new coronavirus cases in Australia's second most populous state. Australia has fared better than many countries in the pandemic, with around 7,920 cases, 104 deaths, and fewer than 400 active cases. But the recent jump has stoked fears of a second wave of COVID-19, echoing concerns expressed in other countries. Globally, coronavirus cases exceeded 10 million on Sunday, a major milestone in the spread of a disease that has killed more than 500,000 people in 7 months. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government confirmed 67 new cases of infection with COVID-19 on Wednesday, the highest daily figure since 87 were reported on May the 4th. Wednesday is the 6th straight day in which the figure has topped 50, with the new cases bringing the cumulative number of infections in Tokyo to 6,292. The almost 2 months high also comes a day after the governor announced a revision to the city's guidelines on monitoring the ongoing spread of the virus. The new guidelines have abandoned numerical thresholds and put more emphasis on the capacity of the capital's health system as basis for deciding whether to implement business closure requests and other virus countermeasures. Beijing lifted several lockdowns imposed to control a fresh COVID-19 outbreak and reported just 3 new cases in the city on Wednesday, raising hopes that the cluster had been brought under control. The Chinese capital had closed off dozens of residential compounds and carried out mass testing last month after hundreds of infections raised fears of a virus resurgence. But 5 residential communities that have had no virus during a control period were released from lockdown on Tuesday, state media reported, as the city relaxed curbs. 7 other Beijing communities saw their lockdowns lifted last Friday. COVID-19 cases more than doubled in 14 U.S. states in the month of June, including California, Florida, and Texas. Arizona recorded the biggest jump in cases for the month at 294%, followed by South Carolina at 200% and Arkansas at 179%. Cases also more than doubled in Alabama, Alaska, Idaho, Nevada, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Oregon, and Utah. Nationally, cases rose by at least 47.6%, and this increased by 21%. A fewer states have yet to report cases on Wednesday. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration on Wednesday released guidance for approving a coronavirus vaccine, saying the vaccine has to prevent or decrease disease severity in at least 50% of people who are inoculated. More than 100 vaccines are being tested worldwide against the virus, which has claimed over 126,100 lives in the United States. The Trump administration in May announced a program called Operation Warp Speed to speed up the development of COVID-19 therapeutics and vaccines, as the country has none approved for testing COVID-19. The European Union on Wednesday lifted travel restrictions for visitors from 14 countries outside the bloc after introducing the controls in March in response to the spread of COVID-19. The 27-member regional group is seeking to revive its virus-hit economy ahead of the summer travel season by removing the travel ban on countries with the virus infection rates similar to or below that of the bloc. Member nations can still take their own steps for visitors from 14 countries including requesting them to self-quarantine for a certain period as immigration controls are under the jurisdiction of each country. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson warned Israel Wednesday against going ahead with plans to annex parts of the West Bank, calling them illegal against the Jewish state's own interests. Israel's coalition government has agreed July the 1st as the date from which it can begin implementing U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East peace proposal, which paves the way for annexations of Jewish West Bank settlements and potentially the Jordan Valley. Last month, the United Arab Emirates ambassador to Washington, Youssef Al-Otaiba, warned that annexation of parts of the West Bank would jeopardize any warming of Arab-Israeli ties. Russians are set to approve constitutional reforms on Wednesday, denounced by critics as a move to allow President Vladimir Putin to stay in the Kremlin for life. The changes were passed weeks ago by Russia's parliament, and copies of the new constitution are already on sale in bookshops, but President Putin pushed ahead with the nationwide vote that ends Wednesday to confer legitimacy of his plans. Initially planned for April the 22nd, the vote was postponed by the COVID-19 pandemic, but rescheduled after President Putin said that the pandemic had peaked and officials began reporting lower numbers of new cases. Germany takes over the European Union's six-month presidency on Wednesday, with outgoing Chancellor Angela Merkel stoking her legacy on a massive economic recovery plan to help the bloc cope with the coronavirus fallout. Chancellor Merkel's last major role on the international stage comes as the 27-member club faces its deepest recession since World War II, triggered by a pandemic that has killed more than 500,000 people globally. The crisis has galvanized Europe's most powerful leader who, with just over a year left in her final term, has ditched her usual wait-and-see approach to call for extraordinary measures to weather the storm. Lebanon's only international airport reopened for the first time in nearly 4 months Wednesday, a move officials hope will help the collapse of the country's economy. The first batch of departure flights left Beirut's Rafiq Al-Hariri International Airport early Wednesday morning, traveling to the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, France, United Kingdom, and Kuwait. 5 flights are set to arrive later in the day from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the State of Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. The airport will operate at 10% capacity, which is expected to bring in around 2,000 travelers per day. Alphabet Incorporation's Google said on Wednesday it was delaying the reopening of its U.S. offices by around 2 months because of a surge in the number of COVID-19 cases in some states. Google spokeswoman Catherine Williams said all of Google's U.S. offices will now remain closed at least until September 7th. Google said in late May it would reopen buildings in more cities at roughly 10% of their capacity, bringing July the 6th, and scale it up to 30% in September if conditions permitted. Juventus secured a 3-1 win at Lille Genoa to stay 4 points clear at the top of Serie A thanks to a solo goal by Paulo Diabla, a long-range rocket from Cristiano Ronaldo, and an exquisite curling shot by Douglas Costa. Genoa held out definitely in the first half with goalkeeper Mattia Perin saving everything his former club could throw at home, but they had no answer to Juventus' individual brilliance in the second period. Dybala broke through when he collected the ball just outside the area, slammed past 3 defenders and scored with a deflected shot in the 50th minute. Ronaldo thumped home a furious 25-meter drive 7 minutes later, and Costa added the third before Andrea Pinamonti pulled one back.